This is going to be the first
Good.
of
Awesome.
8 scheduled lives that Srikala and I are doing on Jesse Johnson Coaching YouTube, Jesse Johnson Coaching Facebook, Jesse Johnson Coaching Instagram, Srikala Instagram. Thank you, Tulsi. And or Tara. The purpose of these conversations is to get messy together around the topic of race and success and race and spirituality and race and money and race and any other subjects that we need to explore. And Shri and I have been talking a lot about this, so it's not like we haven't done any preparation. And at the same time, we expect to go places that we haven't gone together. We expect to go, like, we're kind of going after the edges. That's the point. We want to get messy and we want to do it with you guys. So we want this to be very interactive. We want you guys to ask questions, share the experience that you have. You know, if something that we're talking about feels like we're missing something, I think that that's kind of the whole point, and vice versa. So
yeah, it's a messy topic. It's just by nature, because so many different people have different points of view on what it means for Black lives to be respected, what it means for us to lean in to supporting that mission, and also what it means to be spiritual and live a spiritual life, you know. And so there's so many different sides that people are taking it from, and at the same time there is a common consensus. So there's a common point where we all meet, and so we're going to investigate that and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Jesse, you look great.
So do you.
Thanks. I'm going to turn my light down.
I love your light up. Leave it up. Let's see your beautiful, beautiful skin. So, I mean,
welcome,
I think
everybody. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, welcome. So, yeah, let us know you're here. Let us know why you're here. Stay with us. But we'll be here talking about these edges.
Yes.
Shri, where do you want to start? Do you have a clarity about this, or do you want me to ask you some questions?
Both. Let's play with it. Right now, all around the world, there's a lot of protesting going on. There's a lot of voices being shouted loud and clear. And I think that that's a great spot for us to start. Right as we speak, there are thousands of people in LA heading down, what is it, Sunset? I think they're heading down, or and I know that this is happening all over the world. So I think that that's a good spot. That's a good spot. Why aren't we out there? Why are we here? You know, why are you? Where are all of you right
Michelle.
now? And why aren't you out there? And why are you home? And these are all the fun questions that we could talk about.
I mean, as soon as you bring that up, what comes up for me is that one of the biggest questions that I'm hearing. I don't know if people are writing this, but I'm also hearing it in my one-on-one conversations with clients is how do I show up in this? How do I serve? How do I help? How do I contribute?
Mm-hmm.
And I think in general, it's coming from scarcity. It's coming from a sense of disempowerment. It's coming from a sense of like, you know, it's not like I was born yesterday. Like, I know this is a fucking issue. What the hell do I do about it? What the hell do I do today about it that I didn't do yesterday? And Shri, I don't think you're responsible for knowing the answer to that question, but I would love to hear your opinion, your own, how you're answering that for yourself, how you would like for us to be answering it, just you and me.
Mm-hmm.
What comes up for you around that question?
Well, I think there's, we go through phases on this timeline of Black Lives Matter. There's phases of moments where incidents happen, where people really like, oh, look, we got to be really present. We got to really give our love and our attention and make some actual noise and get on the front lines and make things happen. There are certain areas in the timeline where these things happen. And I feel like um, right now we're at another junction. We're at another pivot point um, where voices are being heard more than ever right now. And I think that within those waves of just attention, there's also the reality that we've been doing this. We've been doing this, like everything that I've been doing, the creation of my music, everything we've been doing with artist development, artist coaching, and coaching. It's all been to reveal people, to reveal the self worth that we all have, to help people go deeper into who they are as kings, as queens, as people that can stand up and kind of own their presence on the planet, and go out there and write that song, go out there and get that degree, go out there and make that money. uh, Everything that we've been doing, everything that I've been doing has been kind of focused on that. And so it's not a new conversation. It's not a new conversation. It's something that uh, we're well aware of what happens when fear and ego takes the center stage. How that how that comes to be, what happens in the world when ego takes over. We're getting to see it right in front of our faces right now. And I think that everything that we've done is to call everyone in, and to bring forth that the maturity onto the planet.
I feel like it's
Exactly, taking the Black people off of the ledge and getting us to proceed with purpose and clear strategy. That's been the day one. And at the same time, we get these massive awakenings because it gets publicized. Like now we saw George Floyd be murdered on the street live. It's like, wow, really? Like right in front of my face. And so everyone is getting a chance to actually see what's been happening off the camera. This has always been happening. It's just happening off the camera. And so it's a beautiful thing, if you ask me. I love it. I love it. Go out there, make some noise, and even the violence to a certain degree. And Jesse, I'm not a violent person. I'm not a violent person. I do not condone violence. I always think that there is a more peaceful path, a more loving path. Love is the answer. Love is the way. And at the same time, if you've been asking for something for so long, what else is there to do? I feel like when certain people, when you're backed into a corner, if you're a lion, imagine a lion being backed into a corner, and he tried to go left, he tried to go right, he tried to jump over, and it didn't work. So now what are you going to do? The lion is going to rage. That lion is going to do all that he can to get out of that corner. And so that's what we're getting to see right now. We're getting to see that rage be let out, that anger be let out. And for a long time, this rage has been silent. This anger has been silent. And now
is that
it's
true?
heard.
Like Sri, I want to know. I feel like one of the best places that we can go here is more personal. And I don't want to limit you from sharing when you're like preaching, because I love that. And as I hear you talk, I'm like, I want to know about your experience with this. When have you felt cornered? When have you felt caged? When have you, like, how do you, as a Black man in America, relate to what's happening?
Well, I feel like it's interesting because I am very deep in my discernment right now, which means like I'm in a way playing both sides, in the sense that I am for the blessing and the empowerment of Black lives, and at the same time, I understand that I am just temporarily visiting in this body. Uh, so my journey is twofold in the way I look at things and the way I seek to understand it. Uh, So I'll say that right now, currently, I'm not in a corner. I'm living uh, very happily, and the happiness only gets better and better. Uh,
How
you
is
know,
it? Do you mind if I just interrupt you a
yeah,
bunch?
yeah. Interrupt me.
Okay.
Dive in.
How is it for you to acknowledge that right now? Like what does it feel like to you to say? Is it edgy for you to acknowledge that you're not currently suffering personally?
No, there's some vulnerability to it. Definitely, there's some vulnerability in celebrating the wins in public, and so yes, it is edgy, and at the same time, it's what's needed because there's so much of this victimized black man, black woman thing happening that it's important that I lean in with the truth that like, oh yeah, there are some kings here too. There's some queens here too. And we're here to represent for that reality. You know. And so I feel like it is edgy, but it's the most realist thing. It's what's true.
Someone, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, Odishay maybe, just posted in Instagram. Every black person in the world is in pain right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that is true. This including this black person.
What is that pain for you, Shri?
That pain is it feels like I'm feeling the global suffering that's happening. I'm feeling what happens when fear and confusion takes over and causes destruction. I'm feeling hundreds and hundreds of years of silence, hundreds and hundreds of years of oppression, and I can see it happening. I see it happening in the world, and it's a real thing, and it feels like, yeah, it definitely hurts. It hurts, and at the same time, what we're experiencing is the most greatest thing I've ever experienced. You know, it's like epic. Are the bunnies acting up?
Yeah, they both like come up and are destroying that blue cushion. It's fine.
Yeah. So it's like, yes, there's pain here, there's anger,
Can we? I like
there's
this
suffering.
question. How does your soul integrate it? And because I think this is part of why this conversation feels so important to me, Shri, is because I think that you are employing technologies, spiritual and material technologies that are really important to this conversation. And so that I think that question gets to the heart of it. Smoky fantastic.
Okay, fantastic, holding it down.
How does your soul integrate it? Like I hear you talking about you're feeling happy and great and like the best you've ever felt in your own personal life. And at the same time, you're feeling the pain of the world, of the collective. How do you connect those
Well,
two?
I welcome it. I welcome the pain. I welcome the suffering because growth comes from contrast. Growth comes from experiencing that pain, experiencing that suffering, and using it to pivot. Uh, and I've done a lot of work on myself. I'm just gonna just say it just like it is. I've done a lot of work on myself. I've lived as a monk for 6 years, and after that, for another set of years, have been completely dedicated to understanding who I am. What's going on here? Why is my mind so crazy? And how do I bring some stillness to that? How do I bring some peace to that? Um, what are these feelings in my heart? Why am I just angry? Why do I feel like I'm so dissatisfied with what I have? And like all these feelings that come up, I've done a lot of work to look at that, to see that, and to understand what's actually going on here. What's actually going on here when it comes to how you walk through this material world, how everything relates to God, and who am I in that trio of connection. And so because I've done the work, when things like this happen, I feel like it's easier for me to experience it and use it and pivot with it and actually see the growth that's in the contrast. See the blessing that's in the pain and the suffering, and use that to push forward.
Do you feel like when you say that you've done the work, one of the things that I think about and have heard is that it's a privilege to be able to do the work. Like that not everybody can. If you're worried about basic survival, if you're worried about whether that comes from financially struggling and like struggling to make ends meet, or on this more like contemporary level of like literally if you feel like you have to worry about whether or not you're going to live when you leave the house because of the color of your skin. Can you speak a little bit to that? Like what is this work, this personal development work that you're talking about, this spiritual work, is it available to everyone? Or is it something that you have to have a certain amount of wealth or a certain amount of access or a certain amount of privilege in order to be able to do?
I feel like it is available to everyone. And at the same time, it's important that each person that has this connection and this understanding to go out and share it. Because that's the one way that we come into contact with the infinite nature of the truth of who we are, is by someone that's experiencing it. So we do the work on ourselves, not just to kind of bobble around in our own bubble, but to go into other bubbles and to go into other atmospheres and share that love and bring that love and bring that understanding and bring that connection. And a lot of times it's not even about showing up and teaching a bunch of knowledge, It's just about showing up and giving love and soothing hearts and setting a great example of a person who's showing up to not only teach something, but just be there and give and love and I think that that's an important feature to show up and set that example. Show up not as an emissary to just tell everybody what to do. Like, you got to do it like this, but no, show up with love and say like, oh, the way you are, tuning into your majesty, tuning into your epicness and glorifying that and rising everybody up to the next level. Honeybee, blessings. Love you too. Good to see you. Lori, one love. Good to see you. Jeremy, blessings. Gaiola, one love. Welcome. We're here talking about the current topic of today, the blessings of focusing our hearts and minds on our worldwide community and kind of focusing it even closer to our Black community and our diverse community. Can you talk about the importance of mantra? Rebecca is asking. From I can't breathe to I can breathe. I love that. I think that that's a great topic. And I'm going to talk about that just until you come back. I know what you're doing, but I can breathe. I think this is an important topic. This is an important topic because on this journey of planetary evolution, on this journey of maturity that human beings are going through right now, we're going through a planetary maturity. And in that maturity, we're gonna say all kinds of things. It's just part of the process, you know. And one of the things that jumps out is like, okay, I can't breathe. And yes, this was some of George Floyd's last words, and and also another's last words. Uh, and at the same time, we want to be present to that because yes, this is what the Black community is feeling. This is what the Black community is feeling. This is like the silent voices, you know, when you're being squashed, when you're being made small, or when you're being put into a lackful situation. It's quite natural to hide and to not share what you're experiencing. If anyone out there has experienced that, when you're feeling in a space of lack, when you're feeling in a space of worry, when you're feeling like not all put together, you're just it's really hard for you to speak. It's really hard for you to share your voice, you know. And so just to hear I can't breathe, just to hear everyone come out and be like I can't breathe, it's powerful. It's powerful. But there's another level. There's another level. And it's important that we speak to this next level, which is really stepping forward to empower the individual. Empower the individual. I can breathe. There's so much air around me. And not only that, but I'm going to show everyone around me how to breathe. I'm going to show you how to breathe more than anyone has breathed ever in the history of breathing. I'm going to show you how to do ancient techniques of breath work that will oxygenate your entire body and prolong your state of life, you know, prolong your age and how long you experience this world. And so it's massively important for us to not only allow ourselves to hear those silent voices, and sometimes those silent voices, that's all they can say is like, I can't breathe, or like I just went on NAACP's website. I was like, I'm gonna go on NAACP's website and I'm gonna see how I can support and be a part of this, because NAACP has always been a leader in the civil rights movement. So I was like, let me check it out. And the first thing that pops up is, what was it? We're done dying. Like, we're done dying. And I'm like, we're done dying. And it rubbed me the wrong way, you know, because I understand what you're trying to do. And I feel like it's important for those that are done dying. And that's the only thing that they can share right now. They're seeing people dying all around them, especially with this pandemic. The only thing that they understand they can share and voice is that, like, I don't like what's happening around me. Yeah. And so that's important to hold. But then there's a new dimension, there's a next level, especially for people like me that is excited to live. You know, I'm enthusiastic about life. I want more of it. There's so much more for me to do. I want to breathe more. I want to take in more air, you know.
One of the things,
yeah.
It's hard to interrupt you. I mean, like, it's hard for me to want to, because I feel like what you're saying is so important and so valuable.
I like it when you interrupt me.
As I listen to you,
I also like it when I keep talking, even though you try to interrupt me.
I feel like as I'm listening to you, I'm feeling very uncomfortable. I'm not even sure why I feel uncomfortable, because you and I are talking about this all the time. I'm not feeling uncomfortable, and I'm on live all the time, and I don't feel uncomfortable with that. But there's something about this that's like, woo, it's like, right, it's here. Feels very like scary. There's something scary. And what I'm realizing, I think there's a lot for me to learn about that. But the thing that I'm clear about is that there's a part of me that's uncomfortable with talking about, publicly acknowledging our joy, our success, our desire for more life, when there's a lot of people who can't claim that. And the complexity of that. And as soon as I found that, I was like, and that's every day. And not to trivialize or minimize what's happening right now, but that just the acknowledgement that like this, that how we relate to how our joy or our abundance or our success juxtaposed with the suffering, the poverty, the homelessness, the social and like racial injustice in the world, like that's not new. That's all the time. And I think that feels edgy to acknowledge, edgy to talk about.
Definitely. It's super edgy. It's super edgy. Because you don't want to offend a whole race. You know? It's a big deal, and it's good to take your time. It's good to take your time, and it's good to actually share regardless, and to go up against possibly being called out about how you see things, you know. And it's worth it. It's worth the pushback to get more information. And I feel like what's happening today, everyone is doing it. Exactly what you said. Like people, there are so many people that haven't been able to say, I want more breath, or I'm excited about life. But now they're saying it. They're on the street. Thousands of people, millions of people right now are like, life for us right now. And anything that takes away our life prematurely has got to stop. We're not into it. It doesn't work. We've asked for this before. And now we're not taking no for an answer. And I think that this is important because we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for people to speak up on an active basis, and not just when something bad happens, you know? Mm-hmm. For example, we're having this pandemic right now, and one of the fingers that are pointed at, you know, one of the things that we can say is the reason is because of pollution. So much pollution right now, which is causing the air to be compromised, which is causing our ozone to be compromised, which is allowing certain pathogens and certain viruses to thrive. We've been told that this was going to happen years ago. When I was in like elementary school, they told us this was going to happen. They were like, if this doesn't stop, if the pollution doesn't stop, then what I was told actually was that the polar caps were going to melt, and whatever was trapped in there for millions of years was going to be released back into the atmosphere. And so not that that's what's happening right now, but just the reality of that, plus the nature of when things heat up, it's more of a tendency for things to. So we've been told this, but wow, look, it takes for something to actually happen for people to actually be like, oh, okay, we got forced to stay inside, and now look, the pollution level has gone down drastically. Almost looks like the ozone layer is reversing. That's how much the pollution has shrunken in our lockdown. So sometimes, I mean, these things, they just need to happen. Contrast, you know, whether it's contrast for an entire race, whether it's contrast for an entire, for all of humanity, or just all of us on an individual level. When we get contrast, that is the biggest thing that we can use to push us through.
I got another edge.
You got all kinds of edges. I can see it in your face. I can see you breathing. I can see you breathing hard.
So this edge, you know how Abraham Hicks talks about when you don't feel good, you're out of alignment with source. You know this thing, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, it's like right here, as if I've been doing push-ups or something. I don't know. That's where I feel it. I'm like, ooh, it's getting tighter and tighter the more we talk about this. And what I just found is that it's like, I fucking think I know what's going on, but I'm dumbing it down because I'm white and I don't want to step on anybody's toes or offend anybody. And I'm just like, I've been through this. It's not my intention to offend anyone. I know I have blind spots. We all do, but it's just not going to serve anybody for me to do that thing.
I love that you're
And
saying this, Jesse,
why?
because there are so many voices, and it's not just the Black voices that need to speak up. It is white voices, yellow, pink, orange. All voices need to speak up right now, and I think that it's a sensitive topic, so it makes sense that there's some vulnerability and some riskiness for you to share. And at the same time, you more than anybody has massive. You have massive information.
Yep.
On this topic to share with the world. So
Yeah.
let it rip.
Yeah. I
Yes, indeed,
it
Tara.
feels like so fucking tricky, but I'm like I love how everybody's just like, yeah, Jesse, you can do it. It's like, this is the heart of my work. And here I am wanting permission at some level, wanting permission to be powerful, wanting permission to serve, wanting permission to contribute. And it reminds me of, so just like mini lineage story. You know this, Sri, but I haven't talked about this with everyone here. So just to briefly share, I was raised in a town where when like I grew up thinking that we had conquered the civil rights movement and that, like, yes, there were like backwater stupid people that were racist, but they weren't like us, and they were like in random, like the vast minority. And then like 18 years basically uninterrupted, that was the story that I had. Not because I had all kinds of friends in all the different racial groups. I just took that story and rocked it out. I read Ken Blackman had a story growing up I think he grew up in Berkeley. And he had a very similar story to mine, but it was because he had friends in all the different groups. He had friends in every race. I didn't have friends of every race. All my friends were white for sure. I didn't know Black people. I knew one Jewish person, even though my grandfather was Jewish, like white Southern Christian communities that I was a part of. And it wasn't until I was 18 and went to college that I found out, like, oh, hello, like racial injustice, social injustice, things are still fucked. And my reaction for years was to feel so guilty that I wanted to like curl up into a little ball and be as small as I could to make up for my privilege, to make up for all the unearned power that I had. Sri, I see you navigating. I'm still here. And that was so painful. And I'm not comparing my pain, okay? I just want to be clear that was very, very painful, and what I now believe pretty unproductive. I mean, it got me here, so not making it wrong, but it's not like my suffering and making myself small actually helped anybody. Hello. Sri, let me know if you need me on the, oh, there you are. Okay, great.
We got it. Yeah.
So it feels like coming back to that. Like for me, I have renounced asking for permission to live my life and be my greatest self. That's been a huge part of my work. But this is definitely bringing it up again. It's like I have to go back to that and reclaim, like, I have a right to contribute, and so does everybody else. And my right to contribute does not take away from anyone else's right to contribute, but it doesn't work the other way either. And I'm just naming that because here we are, we're about to do this for the rest of the month. Like, this is not going to serve anybody if I'm just playing small. Mm-hmm. And when I heard you before, you said something that I haven't heard you say, which I love here. That's part of what we're doing here, which was that these teachings, these technologies around awakening are available to everyone. And it's our responsibility to teach them. It's our responsibility to share them. That's how we make them accessible, is by teaching them. And so I also just want to celebrate you, Sri, for using this to get bigger and louder, to speak more. I want to also encourage everyone that's here, because most of the people that are here, we got to be honest, Sri, for you and me, most of the people tuning into us are spiritual teachers, they're healers, they're artists, they're visionaries, they're people who have these technologies.
Yeah.
And they're the same people that are writing to me or calling me and saying, Jesse, I just feel like this is the wrong time for me to putting my teaching out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, let's flip that. Like, how can we, why is all the stuff that I teach, that we practice, that we study, why would that suddenly go out the door because there are protests going on? That doesn't make sense. What's true is true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like still reinforcing this. I saw you. I think Lauren's there, like telling me, like, this is grief. This is like throat chakra. Open it up.
Yeah, you got to be cool, Jesse. You got to be chill like me.
I'm
experiencing all of this. I'm experiencing all of this, but I'm not letting anybody see it.
Don't you think it's useful for us to share that stuff, though?
I think it's useful, very useful, for you to speak your mind and for you to share. I think based on what you're saying, I think it's amazing that that we continue teaching what we're here to teach, that we continue teaching all the spiritual sciences that we understand, all of the sustainability sciences, all the well-being sciences. I think that they all, although they aren't directly focused on Black lives, it's focused on the soul, which spills over into Black lives. So I say that everybody has a unique offering, a unique service that they can go out there and do. And I think that it's important. For me, that's making music. For me, it's not protesting and going out and having signs and just protesting in a sense of signs and yelling in the street. I feel like that's, other people want to do that. Yes, thank you for your service. I appreciate you. And we all have our own way of giving our service, of loving. And so for me, that's making music. You know, I could put all my messages in my sounds and put that out. And you also have been going and teaching people how to step into prosperity. Black, white, Asian, Indian. You have many different clients spanning all different kind of races. And I think that, yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And we all need to continue making our art. I mean, I was just with someone today. I was tuning into someone's feed, and I was like, this person is an artist. And I was like, hey, this is the perfect time for you to promote your album, you know? And she was like, no, this isn't the time. We're here to march, and we're here to focus our minds on Black lives. And I was just like, but your album is all about this. Your album is all about equality. Your album is all about all of these topics that we're talking about in Black lives also are covered in your album. Mm-hmm. Promote that shit. Get it out. Anyone you see, put that artwork in their hands, because that's your form. That's your form of protest. That's how we protest.
Mm-hmm. Sri, how did you as a child define success, and how are you wrong?
I think I defined success as a child huh? You're going way back.
I mean, whatever. It doesn't have. Yeah, when you were young, and you had some misconceptions about it.
I think when I was young, I had so many ideas around being like other people.
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what other people were doing and trying to do what they're doing and mashing that to my own success, to my fame and being liked and loved. When it came down to uh, from making money to sex to all these things, you know, like growing up, I said for everyone for growing up, it's like you gotta have sex quick, you gotta have sex fast, you know, like all these things that you learn and that it's just thrown on you. Um, and it feels so good to feel liberated from that. Like I could give a damn what someone else thinks and feels right now. And I love that I'm going deeper and deeper into that reality. That like right now I have my teachers who I listen to. I have good people around me that I can cross check my vibe. And other than that, I think that a lot of people get caught up and looking at what other people are doing and defining where they are, you know,
What
based on
changed
other
for you?
people.
Like, how did you wake up from that? And but I just pause and just shout out to our family. Ayana's here. Anne is here. I like, can't
Blessings,
believe we're
blessings.
connecting. That like it's real
My
special.
sister's in the house. I
Yeah,
love that.
and mine. Anne
Lauren.
is a sister
Oh,
of a
nice.
kind. So yeah, really appreciate everybody being here. I
Good to
really
see
feel,
you.
by the
Good
way,
to see
like
you.
just to get
Akita.
everyone is so loving, supportive, challenging. I feel like really in it, but it feels like a very productive conversation. So I
Yeah.
want to go back to this definition of success. What a PS I've asked probably 25 people who have defined, contributed to, inspired my success. I've asked them that question. You're the first person who's mentioned anything about sex, and I love that. So there was a time when you thought that success was defined by how quickly you had sex and how much you were like other people.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that changed. What happened? Like, how did that flip? Because you, in my perception of you, took a 180 turn.
You know, I in a way this was all a natural unfolding. Uh, and in a way, I moved into a temple. I moved into an ashram, moved into a temple, and that quickly flushed out all the things that were not connected to um, who I am in truth. And I think that living in a temple, meditating every day, doing mantra every day, reading about how I am the soul and how the soul is eternal, understanding what happens after this body, understanding what happened before this body, really getting a sense of like what's going on here really happened while I was in the ashram. And and to speak to the other piece of kind of just a natural unfolding, I was always heading towards this in a sense of like um, when I was younger, uh, you know, I got into skateboarding when I was 16. And it's just funny, speaking of our current situation, the current topic of today, I was called white boy on the block because they would see me on a skateboard. You know, I grew up in Bed-Stuy, like the heart of the hood, you know, nothing but black people around me. I didn't even really start seeing white people until I was like 17, 18. I mean like seeing them, yes, because I lived in New York City, but actually being with them and starting relationships, you know. So I grew up in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, and they would yell. They were like, "Hey, white boy," kind of just joking, not so seriously, not kind of like being offensive, but just joking because they would see me on a skateboard, and
How
and
did
I
that
was
feel to you? Like when it happened, did you have an emotional reaction?
Bed-Stuy representing Akita, one love. Did I have a reaction? Not so much, you know, not so much. I think I think I knew at the time that I loved skating. And so I was just like, I love skating, so I can give a damn what you think about it, you know? And then I would do like an ollie, or I would do an ollie or a kickflip, and they would be like, whoa, you know, because there's like, they'd never seen that at the time. This was like, you know, this is like almost 20 years ago. This is like, you know, 18 years ago or something. I don't know. But it was a momentous occasion to see a Black person at the time do a kickflip, you know?
So it was like you took what could have come off as a criticism and used it to impress them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I feel like we got to shout that out, Sri, because when I think about myself at that age, what were you, 16? 15, 16?
Yeah, 15, 16. Exactly, Akita.
I like might have been crushed by something like that and just like gone and hidden, you know? I don't know if I had the resilience to take that kind of negativity directed at me as a child, as a teenager. And so I just am impressed when I hear that story that you were willing to be like, oh yeah, bring it. I'll show you, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, that's my nature. That was my nature then, it is my nature now. So in that sense, there's that through line, you know?
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. Yeah. Okay. So in the next 9 minutes, I want to hear this piece of the story. So how does skating lead to this transformation?
How did skating lead to this transformation?
Yeah, like you really shifted your values, basically. You used to value being like other people, doing what other people were doing, having sex and being a part of what was going on. And that shifted and took you into the ashram where you learned that the soul is not the body is not the body. The soul is not the body, and that there's more to this life than just this physical body. And that is part of how you're so free now. But I feel like there's more in that lineage about how you actually made the decision to go into the ashram. I'm going to chastise the bunnies again. Hold on. Please Bunny keep talking.
Chastisement. I think it's all related. Just the movement through the ashram, through skateboarding. In a way, like Akita said, skateboarding is all about freedom and authenticity. So in that sense, it was like the beginning of rebellion for me, the beginning of rebellion, skating on other people's property and jumping off of all kinds of obstacles. And I feel like that kind of cross-culture adventure through skateboarding took me into spirituality, but I really think it was understanding the nature of the soul and being in that atmosphere that really did the job.
So now I'm thinking about, as I'm listening to you, the role of rebellion. You were rebellious in choosing to skateboard. That took you into other edges.
Well, I think definitely one of the things that happened that is important for what's happening today is that I was skating, and I used to skate for a couple companies, and one of the companies I skated for was a skate shop called Alphabet City Skateboarding. And in that skate shop, the owner taught yoga. And so he would always be like, you stupid kids, you're going to go out and you're going to hurt yourself because you just pop up and you go out and you do all this skateboarding. And you got to do something about that. You got to stretch. You got to, so I was like, all right, let's just teach us how to stretch then. So he taught us yoga. And then he also gave me a book. And this book was Stupid White Men. And it was such a revealing book for me. This was before any spirituality had come in. I mean, I grew up in Christianity, so I had some sense of it. But before that, it was just skating, having fun, and wilding out. And when I read that book, it was so revealing because it made everything make sense in the sense of what I was seeing happening in society, what I saw happening growing up in Brooklyn in an underserved community. I experienced all kinds of inequality, people being poor. I was robbed at gunpoint twice, robbed at knife point, chased at knife point. So all these things are just natural occurrence when you live in an underserved community. And this is what I experienced living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, in the 1990s. And when I read that book, everything made so much sense. It was like, oh, the government doesn't work. It was like the big conclusion, like, oh, the system and the people that are running this so-called government don't have my best interest in mind.
Segue to now.
And so the best interest, they don't have it. Segue to now, that it's interesting. I've just been on this since the early 2000s. It's like government, they just don't know what they're doing. And I feel like that pushed me over the edge when I saw that, oh, it's not it's not stacked in my odds. The government isn't really looking out for me. It's not really set up in a way that takes care of me or my community or people of my color. It's not really set up in that way. Not yet. It's still maturing into that direction. Flourish Ayurveda, it's called Stupid White Men by Michael Moore, which is cool because Michael Moore is a white man, and he wrote this book. And it was a powerful book. And the thing that happens when you hear that the system doesn't work is that what you think then is, wow, everything that I've been giving my life to is not in service of me. Like me following the rules, me stopping at a red light, like all these things that the structure of the world has put into place for my own safety is bullshit. From the simplicity of a red light to going to school, to like all these things that we have to do in life to grow. In a way, I have no chance doing it through how the government is set up. And that allowed me to say, okay, then if I'm giving my whole life to that system, what does that mean? And then I took myself out of it, and I had no grounding. I took myself out of relying upon a president, relying upon a law to be passed, and there was no ground for me. Exactly, it shattered my perception of reality, and that was like my first shatter. I literally kind of went crazy for a few months because I was just like, what do I do? I don't understand the nature. At that time, I didn't understand spirituality. That time, I didn't understand things that would have given me ground. So that was really powerful. And I think that that's what's happening today.
Yep.
It's the most powerful thing. It's the most epic experience that many of us have ever experienced in our entire lives. Because right now, people are seeing that the system that they've given their whole life to doesn't fully work. And now that they're seeing that, the question is, what does work? What does work? And this is the question where there's a lot of people right now at that gray area, like what does work? They're rioting, they're rebelling because they're like, all right, I tried all this other stuff, it didn't work. So now I'm gonna break shit. I'm gonna break shit because being civil, quote unquote civil, hasn't been working. Rebecca, but did you still stop on a red light? Yes, we still stop at red lights. And I think the beautiful feature is it's like right now, the civil unrest is so heated that people aren't even stopping for red lights anymore. They're like, fuck your red light. We're going to stop your red lights. We're going to stand in front of all the cars. We're going to completely be civilly non-compliant. And I think, good question, Erica, what does work? What does work?
I mean, this is coming full circle. This is the biggest question you could possibly answer. So I want to put big neon lights around it, not to put pressure on you, Sri, but just to really emphasize, like, I think this is why we're here.
Ain't no crystals without pressure. Pressure, 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 pressure. Shout out to my next song about to come out.
Yes.
What does work? Well, I feel like it's important to get angry. And we got 20 seconds left on the Instagram, so we'll just stop it and we'll start it again.
Okay.
It's important to get angry. One reason is because can I save it? I don't think they will let me save it.
You should be able to save it.
Everything's changing so much.
I know.
Now they're like giving you a whole different setup. So I'm just gonna vibes. Exactly, Brenda. Because anger transforms, and for a lot of the people out right now, sometimes for a lot of people out right now, they are getting to express something that has been bottled up, that has been held silent, that has been held in a place that had no voice, and it boiled up enough for anyone that has ever experienced anger. When you don't share it, it just compresses and compresses in a way that explodes. Welcome, Gora. Good to see Gora here.
Yeah, they're just, who knows? They're so excited about what's going on. They just needed to be involved.
Find me again, Jesse. I'll let you back in.
I got you.
Welcome back, all. Welcome back. Instagram's silly 1 hour limit. So this is a great topic. This is a great topic because it's twofold. You have those that are angry right now. Having anger is like, I don't got anywhere else to go. I'm just gonna use this thing to get my message across because I've already asked. I've asked once, I've asked twice, I've asked 3 times. You didn't change it. A cop still went out there and killed another Black person. We've already been through this. How many more times do we want to go through this? And the reality is that, okay, everything you want is already here. The reality of change that you want is here now. But the thing is, you have to take it off the table. And
take what off the table, Shri?
Take your freedom off the table. Take your prosperity off the table. Take your kingliness. Take your abundance, your jobs, your gigs, your money. It's there for you. Go get it. The justice that you want is there for you. And if people are not going to give it to you, this is what we're experiencing. They're like, for example, they burnt down the police station in Minneapolis. And in a way, I'm like, you guys are wilding out with all that violence. And at the same time, I'm like, burn that shit down. Burn it down, because we've already asked you. And if you can't get it right, if you can't train them right, burn it down. I'm like, kudos to to the group that went and burned that place down. And I am like, and interestingly enough, I'm for it. I'm for that intensity. And that is an expression of anger that I feel like is warranted. And then there's another side of this though, that there's just been a quietness that's been happening for so long. There's been so much suffering and pain in the sense of not being able to make ends meet, living in an underserved community, living in close quarters, and a pandemic breaks out. And you have no choice but to be around thousands of people because that's just how you're living.
Sri, I know we're over time, and I know that we're going to talk about this more, but can you tell us just a little bit about this new story, song, film, poem? I'm not sure exactly what it is, but just can you give us a little taste of the direction that's going? And I that maybe that seems like it's coming from left field for everybody watching, but as I heard you talking about these scenes, I just was remembering what you're sharing with me, and I feel like it would be really helpful for people to hear some of that, and then we will keep talking about
it's
it.
on my phone, and my phone is on Instagram. So
can you just kind of tell us the flavor of it?
Well, the flavor of it is it starts, and it's going to be really fun to talk about this as we have this conversation, because we get to express the creative process throughout our conversations.
Yeah.
But it starts 500 years ago, maybe even 600, where I am there and I am a king. I'm a king, and I have my people, and we're just loving up the community, and everyone's thriving, and I'm in Africa, and everything is a blessing, and we have some rival tribes that we fight with, but more than anything, we're home, and my kingliness is tested when foreigners show up and they take me from my land and strip me from my name and take me to a new location to plow their fields and plant their sugarcane. And so it's fun because the storyline, it just really hops through timelines. We're hopping through timelines. So it's like we go from living as kings and queens in Africa to having that king and queen tested by someone coming in and removing us from that atmosphere. Next thing you know, we have masters that we are subservient to. And then we're given a sheet of paper that says we're free, but we're still broke, and we're still shoved in underserved atmospheres, and we're told to sit in the back of the bus with all the other people that's best situated for that area. And it gradually takes us to this place of present, where it's like, then suddenly the great pandemic comes along. The great pandemic of 2020 comes along. And that rate of suffering is just intensified. I'm surrounded in a space that I can't even think clearly what to speak of. Deal with the pandemic. I'm still trying to make ends meet. I'm watching out for someone of my own skin color coming to take my wealth from me, because that's their only idea of abundance. That's their only idea of prosperity, is to take it from me. And so I'm in that situation, and it's just like, wow. How can I even think about a pandemic right now? So we have all these voices that are silent, and my voice is silent in this story, in the storyline. And it kind of shifts from my actual storyline, because I was blessed to have like an epic mother and dad. But for some reason, I feel like my mom was the key element here, because she raised me in such a way where she sent me out of town for school, because where we lived, every week there was gunshots across the street. We had to run inside. It was a natural occurrence to live amongst that intensity. And so she sent me out of town to go to school. I got introduced to all kinds of music through her. We traveled all over the United States with my mother. Yeah, there she is. Love you, Miss Cheryl. And she took me all over the place, so I got to see a lot, and I knew that there was more, which is different than I can say for most people that live in underserved communities. It's hard for them to see what more is available. So what to speak of the suffering that people are experiencing, and just the pain. And it's just only a matter of time. As soon as this lockdown happened, I remember talking with a few people, like, it's only a matter of time before the rioting starts, before the intensity starts, because
it's too much pressure.
It's just too much pressure. But that's the perfect amount of pressure for the voices to speak up, because again, what happens when there's pressure, when there's lack, people don't want to share it. They want to hide. They don't want to tell you that they're suffering until you get enough suffering, enough contrast, that you have to say something. And so that's kind of where the storyline of the piece goes. It's like, we're in Africa, we're doing our thing. There was a moment there where we didn't speak up. There was a moment there where we didn't speak up.
Yeah.
In the very, very beginning of being in Africa, and then being, and now it's like we get to speak up now. So it's a cool.
I'm really excited about this piece. I think it's really potent, really powerful. Thank you for sharing.
What were you going to say there?
I saw Rebecca's comment, the perfect storm, and I actually don't know when she was talking about, and I was just aware of that I feel like there must have been a perfect storm in that initial transition from African king to slave, and there's another perfect storm now. Yeah, I feel surprised by. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
The fun part about that, the full completion of the king and the queen is happening right now.
Say more about that
for the black community. The full completion, like the completion, the royalty was there. There was some royalty in Africa, but the full completion of royalty is happening right now, because we are taking it, we are claiming it, and we're saying no to anything less than that. I think that's the difference between where we are now and what has been happening, is that we were just tolerating. Like, we would turn up every now and then. We like turn up, and every now and then, like I was saying in the beginning, we have moments of turn up. Civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, moments where it's just like it's a heated topic. And right now we're at another juncture point where it's like, we want it now, and we want it for the remainder of time. Which is different than what we were asking for previously. On a global scale. Now more people are asking for it. Like, we want it, we know that we can take it, we're taking it. If you don't give it to us, we're gonna make some noise until you hear us, us all. And so that's the completing piece of that project.
Oh, thank you, my king,
my queen.
One of the things that I'm aware of as I'm listening to you is that it's not the well, just that when I was teaching school, I hadn't done the work that allowed me to actually understand what this means. Not really. I had studied systemic racism and systemic injustice, and I knew some things about what was not working, but I didn't really have any idea how to change anything except to just talk about it, be aware of it, fight my unconscious companions to try to wake them up. And this last coming up on 5 years, 4.5 years now, of work around myself and getting free to be myself and claim my own life has given me at least a taste of what is required to do that, to do what you're talking about. I feel like I want to continue to honor that I don't know what it's like to be in a Black body, and there's lots of things that I can't pretend to understand. And that I believe that I am better positioned to support this cause now because of the work that I've done on my own prosperity, on my own liberation, on my own integration of spirituality into materiality. Because it's like, if we're just meditating in caves, we're all good. We don't have any conflict at all. If we're just in our awareness of the soul and that's all that we're identified with, we are one and there's no issue. But as soon as we come into these bodies, there's more complexity. And I think I'm saying that because I want, again, I kind of want to end on this, like let's inspire each other to use the personal development work that we've done, to use our personal empowerment work to serve and support others in doing the same.
Yes, indeed. I love that you said that, because that is part of what's next, of what we have to do. Yeah. And it's also an answer to the question my mom has brought in. She's like, but son, we must move ahead without, so violence is not necessary. This is what she's saying. Violence isn't necessary. And I agree. I agree that violence isn't necessary. And I love that what you brought in, Jesse, the personal work that you've done sets the example. The personal work that we're all doing sets the example for the world. Yeah. What do you feel about your success and white privilege? I remember someone just kind of responding to one of your posts. Do you remember this person? And
recently?
Just recently, not too long ago.
Yeah.
And she was like, how, you're so successful, but you were all set up. You had a lot going for you, being white and all.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's true. I don't have anything. I don't think I have anything useful to say except, yep, I'm white. I had privilege. I had parents that loved me, and middle class parents that loved me. I had a decent education. I was encouraged to get a really good education. There's all kinds of privilege that I had. What I know is that the default setting, and this is a radical thing to say here. For some reason, this feels more radical to say in this context, but what I know is that the default setting was not at all for me to fulfill my greatest potential. I don't think that's the human default setting. For better, for worse, it's not really about that. I just don't think that that's what we're taught to do. In general, that's not what culture teaches us to do. Mm-hmm. And so anyone who reaches for greatness gets smacked. Anyone who reaches for greatness gets chastised, gets punished, gets threatened, gets the whiplash of whatever community they're a part of saying, no, don't grow. So, Kevon, one of my first students at New Design High School is on Instagram. And he was just like, "What have you learned about dismantling systemic racism?" And I'm like, "Well, this is, what I know is about the truth of what's required to move through that, to move through the discomfort of being shamed, rejected, told no, told don't do it, and to go forward anyway." And I am happy to acknowledge forever and always that it was easier for me. I don't know how to compare suffering, honestly. I don't know that that's a thing that we can do. Like, how do you measure that? I had suffering that was hard for me to go through. What I know now, I mean, I've told the story that when I was teaching high school, explicitly and implicitly, the mission of me and all my colleagues when I was teaching and when I was coaching was to dismantle the cycle of poverty. But I didn't know how to do that because I hadn't done any of that work for myself. I had not changed my relationship to money. I had not changed my class. How could I teach that to somebody else? Well, now I have. Now I have skills to teach. So, Kevon, that's my best answer to that question. And it's not, I mean, it's like, I don't know that it's enough. And also it's like, it's what I got. I'm going to give everything I got. I'm going to give it all. Mm-hmm. And ultimately know that this is Krishna's mercy. And the contrast is always there to challenge us to grow, always there inviting us to see what more is possible. And the greater the contrast, the bigger the fucking breakthrough on the other side. Mm-hmm. The more the contrast, the more the extremity of what we don't like, the clearer we are about what we do.
Yes. Yes.
Smokey Fantastic. I'm very open to that. I don't know what that means, but I'm very open to it.
Smokey Fantastic asks, what would it be like to release your concept of privilege? What would it be like? I don't know the answer to that either. I feel like privilege, that word, I'm like, I just stay away from that word. Personally. I think that there's so much just buildup around that word, I think that when I heard that person say that, I felt like they were avoiding doing the work that you did for themselves. And instead of saying like, how did you do that work so that I can do it too? They said, oh, it's your white privilege that I got you so far.
Right.
But they weren't there when you called everyone in your phone book, They weren't there when you did the work to get to the 7 figures that you are now experiencing in your life.
Yeah. And
so I think that people use a lot of these words to avoid doing the work, I
loved what you said before too about it's like, let's welcome what is. So there's a lot of people there's a lot of I don't know, something feels different as we're talking about privilege. I feel like the way that people are commenting is shifting, and I feel like, yeah, let's go there too. Let's go there, and also look at what we resist. Mm-hmm. Anything that makes us react, I think is worth looking at for ourselves. Not because it's wrong to react, not because it's bad to react, not because we shouldn't react, but because for our own liberation, there's something there for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that there is spiritual bypassing. That's part of why I'm so inspired to have this conversation with you, Sri, because in the spiritual community, I don't think there's a lot of this conversation that you haven't been a part of. Like, you've been a part of many of these conversations, and there haven't been that many of them. It's like, it's an important thing.
Of spiritual bypassing in the past. It's a real reality, and it's a great topic. And I feel like maybe one of our topics should be on privilege and spiritual bypassing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more. There's going to be more. We've been on for almost an hour and a half. Maybe this is a good part to like, we'll plant the seeds for the next time. And then on Friday,
indeed.
we keep going. What do you think?
Yeah. Our next live stream, everyone, is Friday. We will continue this conversation. I'm going to bring a more finished body of work of that poem that I was talking about, that written piece to share with everybody.
And
we're going to keep having these conversations because I feel like it's important for us to have these conversations and talk about Black lives, talk about how spirituality, consciousness, and the soul relates to all of this, talk about how success relates to all of this. And thank you, Jessie, for doing the work that you do.
Thank you, Srikala. I'm so humbled and grateful for you and the way that this conversation has gone. I'm like way more uncomfortable than I thought I would be, and I'm excited by that and excited to keep going with you. And super happy that all these people have been here with us and weighing in the way that they are.
Thank you so much.
Really grateful for you guys. This is just going to get deeper and richer and more fun. So
because we're grounding into the conversation ourselves, because this is a touchy topic. This is a messy topic. And so I agree, Jessie. It's like as we go along, the more we relax into it, the more nectar will continue to flow.
Yeah. So come back, be with us again, 7:30 Pacific on Friday. We'll go for another hour or so, and we'll just keep doing that Tuesdays and Fridays for the rest of June.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Tara.
Love you, Kavan.
Smokey.
Thank you, Erica, Cheryl, Mummy, Lauren, Vrinda. So many, Christina. I'm like looking at the YouTube and the Facebook. The Facebook has been rocking out. You guys are awesome.
Sita, blessings.
Robin in the house.
Blessings and love to all of you. Stay safe. Keep bringing that love into the world. It's so needed right now. We're in a massive reality currently. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of it. Love you, Jessie.
I love you, Sri.